Well, Mike Chandler, it's been nothing but big fight weeks for you since you came to the UFC. Here's another one. I guess what's the feeling like this time around?
Man, this is what I asked for. You know, I wanted to fighting so long outside the UFC. I always dreamt of coming here, putting on performances on the biggest stage possible under the brightest lights, and that's exactly what they gave me. I asked for it when I first sat down with Hunter Campbell, laid out my intentions of what I wanted to be for the organization and inside of the organization. And here we are. I mean, the strength of schedule that I put together in 16 months with the backup for the title fight, Dan Hooker, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and now Tony Ferguson, it's right where I wanted to be. You know, big fights, big stages, and this is no different. And I got a tough opponent ahead of me on Saturday night, ready to do the thing.
I wonder as you sit there now, like how you would categorize your UFC run, because exactly what you just said, right? Insane strength of schedule, outstanding performances, right? But if you look at just the results, I know you have high expectations for yourself. So can you be proud of what you've accomplished, or do you sit back and go like, yeah, but I didn't do what I wanted to do?
No, absolutely. I gave up trying to be perfect long ago. You know, when I got into this sport, I watched BJ Penn and Matt Hughes and George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva, all these guys that we looked up to in mixed martial arts, and they all had losses on their record, but at the time they were so dominant that they hardly ever lost. So in my mind, I said, okay, well, I'm not going to lose. There's no reason for me to lose. I'm going to be that good. Then you go through a couple losses, you grow through failure, you grow through struggle, and you realize, hey, it's all part of the process. You know, me coming in, and you look at my record thus far, 1-2 in the UFC, fighting the toughest guys on the planet at 155 pounds. Every single one of these guys and gals on the roster on any given night could lose to anybody on the roster, especially in the top 10 when you're fighting the toughest guys or gals in the world. So it's the cards have fallen how they were. I'm not too upset about a debut of the year starting 2021 and then a fight of the year capping it off at the end. Two awards that I hold dear to my heart, and go out there, get my hand raised on Saturday night, and there's even more big fights coming up in the future.
Absolutely. Tony Ferguson is a big fight. You know, he had the famous Dana White privilege line. We all got a big kick out of it. Everybody laughed. And then we brought it up to him today, and he doesn't find it so funny anymore. It seems like he's got a little chip on his shoulder, maybe a little anger towards the organization, I think, but maybe a little bit towards you as well. What do you make of that?
I'm sorry, Tony, but that Dana White privilege line might be the funniest thing that has ever been said on a microphone in the context of mixed martial arts. He's right. I am his boss's favorite fighter. I am Dana's favorite fighter. Dana White privilege is not on the line here. I've already got it. And no, man, it's all fun. You know, I saw him after the press conference. It's all respect. He's going to go out there and try to take my head off, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. But when it comes to animosity, I got no animosity towards him. He's all business. Is it true? Is it blunder? Is it just words? Is it lip service? We don't know. All I know is he's going to run into a buzzsaw on Saturday night, and my Dana White privilege is not going to make a difference no matter what.
Last thing for me, I mean, obviously your track record speaks for itself, but are you thinking about rankings and title shots and what comes next, or is this all about this point about just coming in and, you know, turning in these fan-friendly, amazing performances and then just seeing what comes next?
Man, yeah, I'm always looking at the future. I'm always looking at the game. I'm a student of the game, and now I'm a student of the lightweight division here in the UFC, how all the pieces are falling together, how people are in the rankings, who's out of the rankings, who are coming in, who is moving weight classes. There's a bunch of different stuff going on. But I truthfully think that everything in the fight business is up to time and circumstance. The reason I got the title shot back in May was the interesting set of circumstances where Conor and Poirier were tied up for a third fight. Khabib retires. In steps me and Charles Oliveira. Now, there's going to be a scenario on Saturday night where one of the two men in the main event win the fight and either retain the title or win the title, and there's not an MMA fan alive that doesn't want to see me rematch either of those guys, Charles Oliveira and especially Justin Gaethje, in a 5-round title fight. So we'll see what happens. All I know is I can take care of business on Saturday night. I'll break bread with Dana and Hunter, and we'll talk about what's next.
Mike, I wonder, I mean, pretty much the entire 6 years that Tony Ferguson was looked at as either the number 2 or number 3 lightweight in the world, you were over in Bellator, you were winning titles, you were doing a lot of stuff over there. Was this a fight that you ever daydreamed about in your spare time or thought about, or even just used this guy as a barometer for your own performances while you were over there?
Yeah, I made the decision that I was going to test free agency and hopefully most likely end up in the UFC right when the pandemic hit. And 2 months straight, I trained in my garage every single day with UFC Fight Pass on, watching every single lightweight, every single minute of every single one of their fights in the UFC. And Tony Ferguson was at the top of the division, at that time when he was kind of going through right off the end of that 12-fight win streak. Still a guy who was looked at as one of the top lightweights in the world, and a lot of people's eyes could have beat Khabib. Tony Ferguson was the first name on our list that we wanted to fight when we came over to the UFC. He turned down the fight and then offered to fight me like a month after Fight Island. I just wasn't ready. I'm away from my family. I needed to go spend time with them, date my wife, and serve my child. And now here we are a year and a half later, and it happens. Tony Ferguson has been the guy I've wanted to fight since the very beginning. Now we get to do it on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I think we're all looking forward to it. I mean, you're always extraordinarily open and honest with us and the media and the fans. And so I'm just curious for your honest assessment. I mean, where do you think Tony is at this point in his career?
I don't know. He's probably in the hotel somewhere over here. No, I think, where is he? I mean, he's, the thing about Tony Ferguson is you can talk about he's lost a step. You can talk about maybe he's lost athleticism or power because of age or whatnot. Yes, he's fallen on some hard times with a couple losses, but just as I said before, when you're fighting the toughest guys on the planet at 155 pounds, you're going to take losses. The thing that makes Tony scary, the reason he is the boogeyman in El Kukui, is he's so unorthodox and so unpredictable. Not a man alive can emulate Tony Ferguson in my training. There's nobody at Sanford MMA, which I highly regard as the greatest gym on the planet with the greatest coaches. They really can't 100% prepare me for Tony Ferguson because you don't know what you're going to get. What we saw last fight was not what we saw the fight before, and it will not be what we see on Saturday night. It's a crapshoot, and that's why everybody's going to be on the edge of their seat. And might I dare to say that we're going to steal the show again.
I mean, do you feel like this fight almost represents, in a way, his last chance to do this sort of title run and be in contention? In a way, does that make him more dangerous, right? You're getting someone who doesn't have much to lose.
I will say I do think he's probably going to be at his most dangerous because you back a guy up into a wall, he's going to come out swinging, especially a guy with a champion heart like Tony Ferguson. I don't think this is an end-all, be-all, fail in its final type of scenario. I don't think we're talking about retirement for him after I beat him. I don't think we're talking, this is his last fight. I think Tony Ferguson, in the sport of mixed martial arts, when you got a big of a name as a fan-friendly and a fan favorite as Tony Ferguson is, and has the following that he has, he's still a large piece of this promotion at the lightweight division. He's a guy who puts butts in seats and a guy that people want to watch fight. So he's got a career as long as he wants to have it. He will lose on Saturday night, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens after that for him.
Well, last thing for me, I mean, you were talking about how hard it is to prepare for a guy like him. You can't get anybody to replicate his style in training. Is there anyone you can compare him to throughout your own resume, like a fighter you fought who you think may be somewhat similar, or anything you can sort of reach to with that?
No, I really don't. I mean, obviously everybody's got 2 arms and 2 legs, and we're talking about boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and grappling. And so, of course, there's different similarities here and there, but I think when you add in the wrinkle that Tony Ferguson doesn't get tired, he doesn't get finished, he keeps on coming, that's a scary fight. He's got elbows that'll cut you up. He throws them from everywhere. He keeps fighting off of his back when he does get taken down. I can't think of anybody that can emulate Tony Ferguson because nobody can. He's a puzzle to solve, and we're going to try to solve it on Saturday night.
Michael? Justin was in here a minute ago, and he said that his fight with you wasn't a war. Are you kind of surprised that he describes it like that?
Yeah, listen, I like Justin Gaethje, but I gotta call him out on some of the things that he said. Number 1, he said it was boring. Number 2, he said it wasn't a close fight. And number 3, he said it was the first time that he fought somebody to win instead of fought somebody to hurt him. Now that to me is very telling. It's very indicative of a guy who met his match, a guy who stood across the cage from somebody who he was afraid for the first time in his life a little bit to engage with because he knew he met a guy as crazy as he was. All of those things are very telling to me that he wasn't where he wanted to be mentally because I put him in a place where he didn't want to be mentally. I love you, Justin. I respect the heck out of you as a competitor. I want to share the octagon with you for the title by the end of the year after this fight if you win. But it was definitely a lot closer than he thinks it was.
Outside of fighting, you're getting a bit of reputation as a motivational speaker. I saw earlier this week how to truly order a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think of that reputation. Feel free to answer it in a motivational speaker.
No, it's I don't take myself too seriously, man. I don't. I have fun with this. I love these opportunities because people get to see it. People get to see what we're saying or hear what we're saying and see what we're doing, and they get to feel something. So I like to use my platform to speak on my experience, to convey a message and tell a story. And I like to have fun on social media. I love that people have fun with it. You know, the Michael Chandler motivational stuff on all the YouTube comments is actually pretty hilarious. But it's also, I think, somewhat of a compliment. I think it hits home for a lot of people, and then a lot of people make fun of it. But people will always criticize things that they don't understand and things that they are intimidated by.
What's your favorite motivational quote?
Favorite motivational quote is Steve Prefontaine: "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gifts."
Okay.
Hey, Michael, over here, to your left.
Oh,
Yeah.
where's your microphone? Oh, right there.
Oh,
Okay, I was going to say, I was okay.
Can you just talk to me about your family's recent decision to adopt another child? Like, what does that mean to you?
Oh, man, it was, I got to be honest with you. You know, I have not even been there. You know, we went out to where our son was located during training camp, right? August 12th or April 12th or 13th or whatever to go get him. And since then, I spent a couple of days in a hospital, a couple of days in a hotel room, and then I've been down in Florida training. So I've been, you know, FaceTiming my wife as she is going through the toils of taking care of a newborn. So I feel like I haven't even been there yet. Number one, to serve my wife and be there to help her. Number two, to serve my oldest son, Hap, who is now going to be, you know, not an only child anymore. So I got a lot of catching up to do. As soon as I get my hand raised on Saturday night, I got to get home and be a father to two baby boys and serve and love my wife, who's been taking care of our household. But it's amazing. I love my family. I love the gift of adoption. I love my son Hap. I love my new son Ace, and I can't wait for the future to raise these two young men into high functioning members of society.
Is a father of two Michael Chandler going to be more dangerous than father of one Michael Chandler?
You know, I think maybe more next fight, once I actually fall in love with my new son and take on that fatherly role. And not that I haven't yet. That might sound bad, but I haven't been able to take myself out of fighter Michael and put myself into father Michael quite yet, a father or two yet. So it's all happened so fast. You know, you want to make God laugh. You tell him your plans, and he's gonna supersede your expectations and change your plans every single time. It was precarious timing for him to be born 2-3 weeks before my fight, but I'm dangerous no matter what, man. Y'all have seen me perform. I like to go out there and bite down my mouthpiece and have a good time. And I definitely got another why, a little extra wrinkle in my game, a little bit of extra love in my heart.
Michael, right here. Looking at your Justin Gaethje fight, in the countdown, it said you kind of like fell into it, like the crowd was kind of erupting and you got into that war. Against Tony Ferguson, it doesn't seem like it matters who he fights. They're going to get booed regardless because Tony Ferguson is such a fan favorite. Have you had to do anything in camp to prepare or just get your mind so you don't fall into that trap of the fans around you?
No, I haven't, but I will say that. I mean, I remember how big of a support he had in May when I fought Oliveira for the title. The dude's got a following, and his following travels. So I expect there to be and it's the fact that it's Arizona. Obviously, there's going to be a Mexican heritage
Cinco de
contingent.
Mayo, too.
Cinco de Mayo, so turns out I'm going into enemy territory. I didn't even realize that till just now. Thanks for bringing it up. No, but I just competition to me, hand-to-hand combat is the same, whether it's in front of a couple hundred people at the Hearn Center back in Missouri or at these sold-out arenas. I'm going to go out there and do what I do best.
I know you said you hope to fight Justin for the title by the end of the year. Is that your official pick for the main event? You think Justin is going to win?
God, it's so hard to pick against Justin Gaethje, but Charles Oliveira keeps on superseding all of our expectations. It's hard to make a pick. If I had to be a betting man and put money on it, I would say Justin Gaethje gets the slight edge just because he can push for so hard for 25 minutes. We know he's going to be able to do that. So That would be my official pick. And yeah, I think there's no MMA fan on the planet that doesn't want to watch me fight Justin Gaethje by the end of the year for the title.
Hey, Michael, over here. You've been speaking a lot about Tony's erratic striking patterns, and you've said multiple times how no training partner could exactly emulate what he brings to the table. So how do you possibly prepare for someone as unpredictable as Tony Ferguson is?
It's a good question, and I answer it how I always answer everything. When most people ask about opponents and film study and how much time is allotted towards my own increasing of my skills and how much focused on the opponent, I always focus 80 to 90% on myself. How does Michael Chandler become a better athlete, a more dangerous striker, a more dangerous grappler, in shape, strong, fast, athletic? How do I use my attributes to fight anybody and beat anybody on the planet? And then that last 10, 20%, focus on small little habits and tendencies and idiosyncrasies of the opponent. We've watched Tony's tape. It's impressive in so many different ways, and as you said, it's erratic and it's unpredictable. So that's kind of the fun thing about this fight. Expect the unexpected and go out there and just be comfortable not knowing what is coming next. Be comfortable and have no expectations of how the fight is going to play out. Go out there and have fun and be confident in my skill set, and I get my hand raised.
And lastly, going off what you just said, you often speak about setting yourself apart from the rest in regards to your training regimen or other lightweights in the division. So what are some things you do on a daily basis that differentiate you from the pack?
Man, I think I've trained on the East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between, and I'm telling you right now, nobody lives the lifestyle that I live. And I'm 36 years old, and I'm competing at an extremely high level because of it. Why has my body lasted so long? It's great supplementation, it's great sleep, it's taking care of my body and treating myself like a professional athlete. And then inside of the training sessions, going harder than everyone else, doing the extra stuff, and then taking care of my body through body work and myofascial release on my roller every single day. The body will perform and last so much longer than we give it credit for if you give it the right tools and you give it the right love that it deserves. So I just go harder than everyone else. My standard for hard work is much higher than anybody else that has sat in this chair, and I will put that on everything. So that's what I've done, and I don't like to get out of shape, so I stay in shape, and that's why it's lasted so long.
Got one here in the back, left. Michael, your run so far here in the UFC has been ultra exciting. Have the fights and your time with the organization lived up to the expectations you had when you signed?
It's exceeded my expectations. You know, I think when you're outside the UFC, you have this view of what it might be to be over there in the UFC, and it has exceeded my expectations. The bright lights, the platform, the ability to have a voice and a platform is what I've always wanted. I've always felt like I was underutilized and underappreciated for the amount of work that I put in and the amount of skill that I had. You know, going back to that gentleman's question, I've treated this training camp and every other training camp in my entire life like it was the most important training camp of my life. I fought some very subpar fighters compared to my abilities, and I always trained as if I was fighting the number one guy in the world. So to not get the recognition for that was hard at times, knowing I was underappreciated, and that's why I spend as much time as I can on this microphone and spend as much time as I can in front of these cameras, because I'm making up for lost time, and I love my life and I love my job.
We knew you as a long time as the face of Bellator. Do you feel now at home as a UFC fighter?
Well, I am Dana's favorite fighter, so no, I do. You know, and I think there's always a transition period. First, they doubt you, then they kind of hate on you and doubt you at the same time, and then they start to embrace you. And that was the mixed martial arts fans are amazing fans, but they are very rigid at times. And I was a nobody who had to come in and prove myself. And here we are 16 months into it, and I've asked for the hardest fights and the biggest names in the sport. Not many guys want to go out there and fight Justin Gaethje for a second time. Not many guys want to go out there and call out Conor McGregor, not because of the money, not because of the red paint, not because they want the legacy fight and the stage and the significance of that fight. I want all the smoke. I want all the big fights. I want all the big names. I want all the big stages. And that's what the UFC can give you that other organizations cannot. I'm right at home, and I'm 100% a UFC fighter, and people are starting to accept that.
And you previously had also said you were here for a good time, not for a long time. Are you seeing more and more options, so maybe extending the period of time you may be here?
Yeah, I always said that too, because I wanted people to know I ain't no spring chicken. I didn't come into this organization as a 24-year-old. I came into this organization as a 34-year-old seasoned veteran, and here I am celebrating my 36th birthday a couple weeks ago, and I still feel great. I still got some huge fights on my horizon. I do believe I will be UFC champion by the time I hang up the gloves, and I think that's sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Michael, just to your right. We had Donald Cerrone in earlier today, and he became very emotional talking about the prospect of fighting in front of his child on Saturday. I know your oldest Hap will be watching you live for the first time on Saturday. Can you put into words how special that will be?
I've tried not to think about it, honestly. It's like, take yourself back to Madison Square Garden. You take yourself back to title fights. You take yourself back to these experiences that have bigger implications than just the fight. The huge platform of Madison Square Garden, or getting to fight for a title. Those things can get inside of your head and make you fight differently. When I know my son Hap is there, and my wife, two of my favorite heartbeats on the entire planet, it's I don't want to think about it too much, because I got a job to do, and I just want to get my hand raised. I want to jump out of that cage, and I want to go hug him and tell him that I'm ready to be home and I'm ready to be daddy, because he deserves that. And I fell in love with him 5 years ago, and I looked into his eyes and told him that I was going to love him and serve him and take care of him. And this sport that I love takes me away from him at times, but he will know that every man has to work. And for him to sit there in the front row and to be able to see what daddy does for work, I think that's going to be really cool. So I'm excited about it, and try not to think about it too much. So thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you, Mike.
Michael, just one here to your left, close it out. I know you said in the past 2 fights that you zigged when you should have zagged, and that's kind of the difference between winning and losing. Is there anything you can do going into this fight to clean that up? I know it's chaotic in there. I know decisions happen in a split second, but is that something you've thought about that you can change, or is it something that just kind of happens?
Yeah, I think that's why we love this sport, man. Every single fight is different, and every single moment could be catastrophic for yourself or your opponent. And that's why we love the sport. I am confident in my skill set. I'm confident where I am exactly right now. I'm confident in some of the things that I've cleaned up from previous performances. I'm confident where my head is at and where my heart is at and where I'm at physically. So not a lot I can do besides just be me. The good thing is I know I have the no-quit gene in me. I have the warrior gene inside of me. We all saw it last fight. We've seen it in numerous fights. It's something you can't teach. You can't teach grit. You can't teach heart. You can't teach determination. You can't teach toughness. And I have those things in droves. So Saturday night, I want you guys to see the technical side of me. And if I have to pull out that dog inside me, I will.